Hey y'all. Um, so this is gonna be different, I guess. Um, I'm not planning on coloring. I just set a book up here. I've tried to color honestly, and it's almost like I forgot how. Just I've started 4 or 5 different pictures, and I don't get very far on it. I'm just not feeling it. Now, mind you, I want to color. I would love to be coloring. I wish I could color. um, I haven't been on in a while. Um, and there's been a lot going on and several events just piling. And here I am. I will say warning to anyone that may be triggered by sensitive material involving death and loss and such, because I'm going to basically do story time and share some of what's been going on in my life. And I decided to go personal, I guess. I debated whether or not to do a face to cam ordeal, and I decided not to because I'm not sure. Basically, if I cry, I don't want to have to do too much editing, and I don't want to be on video just crying and blubbering. So I will be doing my best to control that anyway, though, and I've already kind of, I don't want to say practiced, but I've been building up to this time to make a video just to reach out to um, everyone and share. So, for a little, I'm going to back up a little bit. um, I mentioned it's just been quite a pile that I've had on me for a while. And so I'll back up to about June, and it was Father's Day weekend, Father's Day here in the US. And I had gotten a call from one of my very best girlfriends, and she was so upset, and she was crying, and she was hysterical. And she had just basically, she had enough. Um, she had had some really rough things happen to her, and she just wasn't handling it very well. And um, she wanted to end it. And she was crying and begging me to help her and telling me what she was going to do. And I called the police and I sent them to her, and they got there and they just left her. They didn't take her, they didn't get her help, they didn't whatever. Um, so 2 days later, I got a call that she was gone. And that was it was a big deal. And I miss my friend. So, life keeps moving, and we get to September, and the kids come at me and they're like, "Mom, something's wrong, something's wrong, something's wrong." And I'm like, "What?" And they're like, Rocky's not, something's wrong with Rocky. Now, Rocky is a blue and gold macaw, and they said that he had fell off his perch and So I come to check on him, but I'm really not thinking too much of nothing, because this bird, his whole entire life, from the time he cracked out his egg, has been a klutz. He's always been klutzy. He's always struggled with basic bird things because of being klutzy, like staying on a perch. Um, I have handwritten, like, journal notebook thing that my grandpa had kept, like a daily thing on Rocky, because my grandpa was the one who originally had bought Rocky as an egg way back when. And he brought Rocky home. I was only 4 years old. And anyway, he has many, many notes and comments about just how klutzy Rocky was. And it was spoke of throughout the book. So when I got up on him, I knew something wasn't right. And went into immediate rush into the Bernie Hospital 2 hours away from my house mode. And it turned out that he had developed a heart murmur and was in active congestive heart failure. And I didn't come home with my buddy that day. He's been a part of my life for 40 years. And it was one of the worst days of my life. So I thought, um, it was bad. And it's been hard. He's very vocal and spoke and knew my name. And I miss hearing him in my house. I've been struggling um, I'm trying not to get it together. My mind right now, I'm like, oh gosh, why am I even making a video? Okay, so I've been struggling with that, and missing him really bad. So then we get into October, and we get to October 18th. I had just went upstairs, stopped coloring, and went upstairs to start cooking supper. And I was getting in and out of the oven, and I got a phone call. And it was telling me that there had been a really bad accident, and my dad was on the way to the hospital. So, my dad had, throughout the summer and all that, he had been struggling with some new health issues to him, and um, it was very worrisome. But they had been doing so many tests on him, and all this, that, and the other, that they'd found some things, and they had put him on some medication, and that was helping, and he was perking up, and things were, he was looking good. And then that day came, and what had happened was he was at home, and he was mowing his grass on a riding lawnmower, And where he lives, he's got a lot of steep hills and such. And he was kind of like cutting on the side of a hill, and it tipped over and it threw him off, and he rolled on down the hill. And the gas tank on the mower had busted open, and all the gas poured down the same trail to the bottom of the hill that he went. And somehow it all ignited. He caught on fire. There were lots of people that were neighbors that tried to help put him out, and he was taken to the hospital. And I got to the hospital after the call, and they told me it was bad, that it was really, really bad, and that he was probably going to succumb to this. They loaded him up in a helicopter and they flew him to a bigger city that's got a special burn unit and everything. And I watched him take off in the helicopter. And then my husband rushed me down to the next hospital. When we got there, we really didn't have to wait too long. They took us back in this room, and the doctor came out and he talked to us. And they said that there was nothing that they could do for my dad. And he had been third degree plus, over 95% of his body burnt. And basically his system was already shutting down, and the only thing to do was to say your goodbyes. I went in there with my dad, and it was terrible. But I stood there with my dad, and there was a finger sticking out, and I held his finger and I talked to him. And he passed away. I stayed there with him for a while. And then we finally left. And that was the worst day of my life. Whew. Keep telling myself I can do this. I can do this. I want to do this. So I'm a big daddy's girl. I have a tattoo on the back of my right shoulder blade that it's a Harley Davidson emblem with wings, and there's a banner, and the banner says Daddy's Little Girl. And I've had that for quite a long time. So it was a big deal. And things took longer to take care of because of what had happened. It just delayed the whole process of the steps that happen after somebody passes away. But I had to go through a lot of those steps. I'm an only child, and it's all me to take care of. Now, mind you, I have my husband, and I'm blessed with a lot of great family and friends. And I'm not alone in this, but like, just as far as being a responsible person, because he wasn't remarried or anything like that. Like I said, I was an only child, so it just all the signing paperwork and doing things and all that is on me. So I've been doing all those things, getting things took care of, and we finally got to have his services and lay him to rest. Um, with my great grandparents, my grandparents, his mom and dad, and one of his brothers this past Saturday. And today I went to the cemetery and picked out and planned out his headstone. Um, one more thing just to add to these weeks of what I've been going through. Saturday before, one of my dogs passed away, my Molly. I know some of you saw the pictures and the posts that I had put up about her on my community tab. Um, and she was a senior dog, and she was sick. She had cancer. She'd been struggling um, for a little while. Then she perked up for the last year, um, and enjoyed herself in our new home. But she laid down that night and she just didn't wake up. She laid down and she got comfy in her spot and didn't wake up. And even though, we knew her time was growing closer and all that, it just still sucked. And it was just another loss. It's been one right after another, right after another. So that's the pile. It's been a lot. I haven't been around on social media or on YouTube much since, but a few times I have poked around. Everyone has been so kind, and I want to thank everybody for all the kind words and thoughtfulness and prayers, because they are much needed and I very much appreciate them. And here we are. It's I can feel a piece of me missing, and I know that's never going to go away. That'll just become something that I learned to live with. But I wanted to talk about my dad and share. I thought about, doing a slideshow and all that. But I was just like, no, I'll just share some pictures. And this is him and Rocky. And this would be back in the 80s, back in the olden days, according to certain children that I know. Me and my dad, there was a memorial candle at his service, and this is the picture I used for the candle, which turned out to be a bad idea, apparently. I didn't, it was just something that they do, and I just went along with it. And my daughter, at one point during the services, leaned over and caught part of her hair on fire, which just was, considering everything that had happened, um, it wasn't good. She was okay, nothing major, an inch or two of hair gone, but but still, it was just like, oh, are you kidding me? And so that's my dad. And as you can see, he rode bike. Now, my dad was one of four boys, and his dad, my grandpa, used to race Harleys off road back when the Harleys practically looked like bicycles still. I have a bunch of my grandpa's trophies that he won while he did this, and I also have silent black and white movies of him doing it. My dad loved that bike. I always loved this picture. Um, it was 20 some years marriage when my parents separated, so I was no longer a child under the roof, and I was actually with I was already married and all that. Um, by the time my parents separated and ended up divorced, but based so they were together throughout my childhood, and so that is me, my mom, and my dad. And it's at a hill climb where they would take dirt bikes, but there's always that handful of biker guys that are going to take a Harley up this extremely steep hill, um, just to see if they can. Pretty much is the point of that. I remember picking this cake out for him when I was a kid. He thought it was so cool. You can go back a little bit. That's my dad. Oh Lord. There he is. I have several different school pictures. Somewhat strange seeing him so young sometimes. When I think of my dad, this is the version that comes to my mind. We just always, we had a really good time. Um, Me and my dad. I wasn't able to speak. He became a truck driver. He worked for General Motors for many years, and then he basically wanted to live out his dream, and that was to be a trucker. And he went to school and did that. And this is one of his first jobs he ever had. He was super happy about that. So I couldn't talk at the services. I wouldn't have been able to keep myself composed. And I wrote a letter, and the pastor, he read that letter for me. So this is just down the road from where I grew up. And it's an Optimist Club. And there's a couple ponds. And every year they have a kids fishing tournament. And every year my dad would take me, and that's what we're doing. And almost every year I've taken my kids, and we sit right close to this exact spot, actually. And my kids participate in the same. And also, they just happen to have a clubhouse there, and that's where my wedding reception was. So it's a fishing tournament. And a few of you might remember I had mentioned, getting a special birthday present from my dad this past birthday, where he got me the rocking chair. This is him and my grandpa, the one I call Pappy. That's at the church when I was getting married. And this was so, you got this biker guy, and he dressed up like Cookie Monster for me. That's me. On my third birthday. And he had to jump on his Harley and ride across town to go pick up my great grandma and ride her back on the Harley to my birthday party. So I'm going to read my letter that I wrote, because I think in my mind, it tells a lot about who he was for me. You get a sip here of my green tea. Okay. He taught me so much. How to fish, how to clean fish, camp, ride a bike, shoot pool, play poker. He played board games with me. Mousetrap, Monopoly, and Yahtzee were big faves. My dad, with the long hair, big beard, riding Harleys. He dressed up like Cookie Monster for me on my third birthday. He played Barbies and baby dolls with me, just as much as playing with Transformers and Hot Wheels. We raced cars, be it on electric tracks, our fave was the Dukes of Hazzard track, or remote control cars. We watched wrestling and football together. Every play I was in, every dance recital I did, every game I cheered at, he was there. We cooked together, sang together. I remember he laughed so hard when he realized I was singing "There's a Bathroom on the Right" instead of the actual lyrics to the song, which were "There's a bad moon on the rise." I was so embarrassed. I remember singing my little heart out to that song and him like, what? And just losing it. And then me realizing and thinking, oh, wow, all this time I thought it was, there's a bathroom on the right. He made me tough, but treated me tender. I remember a tween-age heartbreak and him wiping the tears from my face, just laying on the couch holding me, telling me all the things I needed to hear. He also taught me qualities I should look for in a guy, like how a man treats his own mother and being a hard worker. 2 weeks before my wedding was the hardest I've ever seen my dad cry. He said it was so hard to see his baby girl go. But he walked me down the aisle, and I was proud to be on his arm. I was always proud of my dad. I have a life full of great memories with my dad as a child and adult. He was always there. Even my last birthday this past summer, he made it special doing daddy things, bringing me a birthday cake, food, and a special gift. I know he was happy for me. He knew I have a good husband that loves his mama and works hard for his family. And dad loved my kids. Dad loved all his family, and I will always be daddy's little girl. So that's my letter. And maybe, it tells you a little bit who he was as far as he was a good dad and we were really close and he did a lot of things with me, things that you would look at him and think, oh, that's a guy ain't doing that. And if it was for me or with me, yes, he would. He loved trucking. He loved motorcycles and fishing and boating and gardening, cooking. He would sing or hum or even whistle while he cooked and was messing around in the kitchen. He taught me how to make chili and meatloaf and bread and pizza dough and cornbread and biscuits and fried taters and all kinds of stuff. Shuck beans. He taught me how to be good, be a good person. He told me to marry for love, not for money. When I was a kid growing up, he took me to school one day, and this is like young school, maybe first, second grade, somewhere in there. We pulled up at school, and it was, jump out the car and go into school now. And he looks over at me and he says, "Want to go fishing?" I'm like, "Yeah." And we took off and we went fishing all day. Um, even as an adult, married adult, if I was sick and he knew, I had a cold or um, just whatever, he would he'd go to the store and he would get me medicine and my favorite cough drops, and he would maybe make me food and bring me soup and that kind of stuff. He loved to go on these fishing trips like once or twice a year with his buddies, and they would go salmon fishing. So we go down. This is at the cabin at my great uncle's um, on his lake down in Kentucky. So there's always lots of fishing. Um, there he is walking me down the aisle. We used to go out in deep sea boats, go deep sea fishing all the time. when we were in Florida. I grew up back and forth to Florida all the time. So here's a picture from that same shot that day or whatever. That's Dad and Rocky and me. This is actually the Thanksgiving before. This was like Thanksgiving trip to family. So that's in November of that year. And then the following January is when I met my husband. Now I have a few other pictures I'm going to share, but they're on my phone. I'm not going to do a crazy amount more. That's another out on the deep sea fishing boat. Here is a younger grade school picture. And it's neat because the silent movies that I mentioned before, where I had my grandpa racing Harleys and stuff, of course, there's other family in there. So my dad and his brothers and everything, they're just little fellers in those home movies. But so I actually have those type of home movies. Oh, come on now. Try to figure out which light it is. Guess it's that overhead one. I don't think. Anyway, moving on. This was one of his favorite pictures of us, and this is the one he had as his um, Facebook profile picture. Now that's just going to get on my nerves. Let's see if I can block it. Oops. Well, that don't work. Oh my. I'm trying. Sorry, people. I have the picture, but I don't know where it's at for some reason. And it should be in this stack. That wasn't too long ago. Well, I mean, no, this might have been 4 years ago. About that. Me and my dad. That's my husband and my dad. They got along well. Um, I was fortunate that my dad, my husband, they always liked each other. So that's his senior high school picture, graduation picture. I'm trying to decide if it's my phone or the overhead lighting that's giving me problems. Let's see what this does. Okay, there we go. When he cut his hair, I was shocked. Let's see if we can see this one better now too. A little bit. Um, I had went my whole entire childhood into my young adulthood never seeing my dad with his hair cut, and then it was cut. Let's better down at that. Turn the light down on my phone. So it was blew my mind. Of course, I got used to it. Now this was a fairly recent one, and this is the picture that I ended up using as his obituary picture. We always went and did stuff. We always had places to go and activities to do, and whether they were local or weekenders or out of state. We drove a lot of places. We had a camper, a drivable camper, and then we also had they called Jimmy van, which was a van that had a bed and a sitting area and a refrigerator and a stove and everything inside the van. Um, we go camping and canoeing. That's him and my husband on one of our canoe slash camping trips, roughhousing in the river, basically. Um, hmm, that's us at Busch Gardens, Tampa, Florida, back in the day. We were at this place that kids go to race go karts and play laser tag and all kinds of video game things and stuff. This was one of my daughter's birthday parties at that kind of a place. Said he loved boating. This was on the back of his boat at the time. I remember we went tubing that day, which that was fun. This one is see how well this shows up. This one is special. This picture of me and my dad was right after 9/11 happened, um, like really soon afterwards. And there was a benefit ride for Red Cross, and I rode with my dad in that benefit run. And there were thousands and thousands and thousands of bikers. And every bridge and everything that we underpass, whatever you want to call them, that we went under, um, they were lined up with firemen and police and stuff, and they were up there um, waving the flags at the top of the ladder, the firemen, fire truck ladders, and saluting us and all that kind of jazz. And all the money raised went to help the cause of what was going on at that time. So that's my memory with that picture. We were always doing something. So yeah, um, that's a little bit about my dad, and that's a lot of what's been going on with me. Um, I again appreciate everybody and all of the prayers and kind words. And I know, like I said, it's something that's never going to go away. Missing a piece of me, my dad, and even Rocky, because I've spent 40 years of my life with him. Also, um, just got to learn to live with that now. And I did, like I said, I got his headstone and everything sorted out this morning. and they said 16 to 18 weeks until that would be finished and in. And I have a lot of other things not mentioned in this video going on, adding to the chaos of my life at the moment. But not all of that chaos is bad. There is a nice chunk of it that is a positive, and that is the thing that I have been hanging on to and trying to focus my attention the most on currently during all of these weeks, since this really got so heavy. And that's on track. And like I said, it's a positive. There is some other issues, but that's not this video, basically. There's other things that I will most likely in the future be doing another story time video, I guess, and just sharing some personal life with you instead of just coloring. And I'm going to try to wrap this video up. But I do want to say, like I said, I am struggling a little bit to color, and I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's because of what's been going on and I'm not, do I say, like, mentally ready to be coloring. I feel the focus is kind of like half and half, I guess. I mean, mostly there. And I absolutely have the desire to color. I want to be coloring. I wish I was coloring. I want to be doing that and feeling like I'm creating something. Speaking of which, my bestie that does junk journaling, who's really good at it, she's going to be the lead foreman on my book project, which will be a book about my dad. I'm going to have all kinds of stuff in it and tons of pictures. And it's probably going to take us a while to make it. And that's something that I will share with y'all when it is done. But that is a project we are going to begin probably soon-ish, I would say. So I'm trying to get my coloring mojo back. I'm trying to figure it out. I don't know if it's kind of pictures I'm trying to color, if I just haven't had the right picture grab me. I know I want to color, but I don't know what I want to color. And so I'm just kind of lost with it and trying. And so hopefully it'll come back. And I'm hoping that maybe this coming weekend I will do my normal Saturday evening 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time live stream, but I cannot make no guarantees. If nothing else, I do know that in the next couple days, within this week, I will get at least one more video out, if not two. So be looking for my what I colored in October video. I didn't get that much done, but I have a couple to share. A couple for you, maybe, I think. Not sure. So I will do that. And again, thank you, everybody. Till next time. Later, y'all.